Everyone. I'm Lisa Rubin Johnson, and today I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Karl Reid. Dr. Reid is the Executive Director of the National Society for Black Engineers, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about him. So he is a graduate of MIT, where he studied material science and engineering, and then he worked in product management, sales and marketing, and consulting in the computer industry, including IBM. And then after that, he got his doctorate degree, his EDD, from the Harvard School of Education. After this, he worked with pre-college and minority students at MIT. And then he was the senior vice president of the United Negro College Fund. And now he's the executive director at the National Society for Black Engineers. In addition, he's a new author of this book called Working Smarter, Not Just Harder: 3 Sensible Strategies for Succeeding in College and Life. And there are 3 shifts he recommends in here having to do with attitude, connection, and behavior. And it's a great book, which you can get on Amazon if you'd like. Really great for students, especially first-generation students, students that may not have the ultimate support at home or in their schools, and just need some really great advice about how to succeed in college. So today we're going to be asking Dr. Reid some questions about education entrepreneurship. So my first question, first of all, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
My first question is, could you please tell us why you decided to go into education?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you. I've always felt very, very strongly about education, even while I was pursuing an engineering degree. As a young child, I sought out opportunities for young people. And every chance I got, I did that. Much like you. And it's been it's a joy to be a part of this program. Some years ago, my mother-in-law sent me, or she calls herself a mother-in-law, sent me a copy of Jonathan Castle's book, Savage Inequality. And Savage Inequality points out the educational disparities of schools across the country. And I felt very, very angry, somewhat upset that America could allow young people who were in proximity to each other have wildly different educational experiences, whether it's in East St. Louis or the Bronx and Riverside or Roxbury and Wellesley. The fact that young people can have different experiences in education really angered me. And there's a great book some years ago that I read called The Assignment by Mike Murdoch. He says, you know your calling based on what gets you angry. And I just remember just getting so upset about that. I was in industry at the time, working for IBM in 1991 when I read the book. And I said to myself, at some point I would get involved in education policy. I would get involved in remedying this situation, mitigating the differences. I didn't really know what to call it at the time, but I ultimately, 10 years later, in 2001, when I started my doctoral program. It took 10 years for me to fulfill that plan, go back to school and get a degree. And my degree was Administration, Planning, Social Policy. And so it was a fulfillment of what the seed that was sown back in 1999 when I read Jonathan Karl.
Well, one thing I should mention is why I decided to reach out to you for this interview. And the reason is my problem of practice at Northeastern School of Education is around first generation, low income, underrepresented minority students, taking a look at the graduation, 6-year graduation rates being just so terrible at 11%. And then thinking about how a lot of those kids are, are in debt from starting school and have no degree from it. And so my focus is on improving that, trying to, in my little corner of the world, improving that situation through entrepreneurship, through great mentoring, best practices mentoring. So that's kind of one of our connections. So could you talk a little bit about, so you were working in business, and what advantage you see being now in education, having already been in industry with a background in business?
Yes, and you mentioned in the introduction, I spent 12 years in the computer industry, 6 with IBM, and another 6 with 2 other software companies, and managed a worldwide data warehouse product line for a German-based company based in Darmstadt, Germany. And so I saw at the end what education can produce, and also the requirement. I think it was Stephen Covey that says one of the habits of the 7 habits of highly effective people is begin with the end in mind. And so having a business background, understanding the end product, in some cases, the end product of education really helped me to work backwards, to look at the value, the effect of education. But more importantly, business focuses on efficiency. And so applying those discipline processes of efficiency with education is an added value that I brought in a perspective that I bring to education. Can we apply kind of an efficiency lens in education, maximizing the output and minimizing the cost? And using that in an educational framework was invaluable for me. But more practically, I manage product lines, software product lines. So I start off always with the customer requirements, gathering those requirements and interpreting those requirements into product requirements, and then driving to a solution, working across functional teams to do that. We call it in product management the fuzzy front end. And I think that having that perspective in designing new programs from scratch is, and having that process and that system is invaluable. I've started several new programs across the board by starting out with the customer. And what does a customer need? Whether it's a 3rd grader or a 5th grader, whether it's a college student, a 9th grader, in low-income communities, what do they really need? And then designing programs to meet those needs, and hence the big picture outcomes we want to achieve.
Yeah, I can relate to this because a little bit of my background has been in both product and project management. And you can just translate it into different fields, and it is a great skill set to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So could you please give us some examples now that you're at the National Society for Black Engineers? What are some entrepreneurial initiatives that you're working on? I know you and I have discussed the SEEK program, but maybe you could elaborate, please.
Yeah, let me go back before I came to the National Society for Black Engineers. I looked at, when I was with UNCF, we created a number of programs that really met the needs of industry as well as students. So one program I was very proud of, we work with the PR industry. The public relations industry is not diverse. They came to us and asked us for a solution that would create a pipeline of historically Black college and university students, HBCU students, who are prepared on day one to enter the PR industry. And so I put together a team that concluded representatives from multiple agencies, as well as the universities that would benefit from this. And we designed a program we call PRIME, the Public Relations Internship, Marketing and Education. And so we were able to launch that program, and it's pretty successful. About 15 students a year come through that program, and I believe the UNCF is continuing to grow that. We also looked at the National Society of Black Engineers looks at the pipeline, and we recognize, and we've established a big goal to produce 10,000 Black engineers annually by 2025. That's a threefold increase in current numbers. And we've modeled what it would take for us to do that. And in fact, it really starts in the fourth grade. Even though those fourth graders would not be engineers by 2025, we feel that the fourth grade is a critical juncture for a lot of young people when they start to look for their parents, mentors, teachers, to affirm their interest in science and technology, mathematics, etc. And so fourth grade is critical. We looked at the eighth grade for math proficiency. 12th graders, we looked at those in terms of completing calculus, and then matriculating to engineering, and then completing engineering. So the Summer Engineering Experience for Kids is the program that we run at the beginning of that cycle. It serves 3rd to 5th graders. It's a free 3-week interactive engineering camp that we've held in now 16 cities across the country that really provides the mentoring, the training, the confidence for these young people to see themselves as engineers. We've been evaluating this program since 2008. We started in 2007. We found that even in this 3-week period, the students have higher conceptual knowledge in math, higher conceptual knowledge in science, a greater interest in pursuing engineering, and more recently, we partnered with Virginia Tech and Purdue University with the National Science Foundation to add a couple of other factors that we're looking at. Knowledge of the engineering process, self-efficacy, confidence, motivation, and we're looking at the context. Did all-girls classrooms work better for girls in terms of their learning than co-ed classrooms? Classrooms with a higher degree of mentors who are college students with engineering degrees have a greater effect, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at all of these contextual factors to see which ones have the maximum effect on conceptual knowledge, interest, motivation, as well as confidence. So that's one example of a program that we're working on. The NSF grant enables us to scale up to 31 sites by 2019, which would mean that we could be serving between 7,000 and 9,000 students a year. And then our goal is to franchise that model in order for us to get it.
I think it's totally amazing.
Thank you.
And I hope you hit those goals too. I think that would be absolutely just great. You had mentioned to me that even though the organization is called the National Society for Black Engineers, that sometimes they're kids of other ethnicities and often the mentors and are of different ethnicities. And I'm interested in that because that's related to my problem of practice. Can you talk a little more about that, please?
Yes, actually, we're not restricted in any way to who comes in through our doors. Those 3rd to 5th graders can be African American, Hispanic, they can be white children, Native American. It really doesn't matter for us. What we do value is the mission of National Society of Black Engineers. Everyone has to really ascribe to the mission to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers. But beyond that, we don't limit who comes through that program. That applies to the students as well as the mentors. The mentors I didn't mention, and we think the secret sauce of the program are the mentors. We hire college students, many of whom are NSBE members, to come and teach. They make a 4-year commitment to each site, 1 year of training, 1 week of training. They make 4-week commitment, not 4-year commitment. 1 week of training, and then 3 weeks of the program. And again, we don't the mentors to NSBE members or to the African American, but we open it up. So certain sites like San Diego, Denver, Houston have a higher number Latino mentors and students who participate. In fact, what we like to say is that we like to hire the mentors that are representative of the students in the neighborhood we serve.
And I would imagine that as you ramp up this initiative to graduate 3 times the number of engineers over time, that those students that have gone through this program will come back likely and be mentors to younger students, right?
Absolutely, and they are. What I didn't talk about is our programs that serve middle and high school students. We have programs that serve collegiate students. In fact, NSBE has chapters in 291 colleges and universities around the country. And so, and then we have programs that serve professionals as well. So what we're starting to see is the leading edge of the SEEK students who are now finishing up their sophomore year, starting their junior year, they're coming back as mentors for those programs as well. Not just the SEEK program, but the NSBE junior programs, as well as taking on leadership in their college campus.
That's really great. So it's so important because then you'll get the ball rolling, and that can be life-changing across the country.
Absolutely. It becomes self-sustaining. And ultimately, because we really build in our own workforce, we train and develop our own workforce that then gives back. One of the pieces of our mission is to be culturally responsible Black engineers. And so not just to become an engineer, but to be culturally responsible so that they can come back and positively impact the community. And that is really in the DNA of the organization. Everyone has this notion to lift as they climb in our organization.
That's great, and you're the one to lead them too. So, because I know your character personally, and that sounds great. So, finally, let's talk about kind of the future and what you see as entrepreneurial initiatives that will be helpful in terms of educating students in STEM in the future, and also thinking about do you think classrooms will be all taught with teachers there, or do you see any online opportunities, either hybrid situations or more online? Just in general, what do you see for the future?
This is a great blue sky, or some call it a blue ocean question that I absolutely love. First of all, let me start with the fundamental principles of learning and of education. 21st century skills require not necessarily knowledge of content, because you can Google content, you can ask Alexa anything, and Alexa can give us anything. But it's the critical thinking, analytical reasoning, problem solving, and communication. Clifton Conrad, in his book, Cultivating Inquiry-Driven Learning, really talks about these skill sets that are necessary for 21st century leadership. So to the degree to which you can foster that and change the dynamic of education away from content, drill and kill, to the skill sets that are necessary for one to become lifetime learners, lifelong learners, is absolutely necessary. Daniel Pink, in his book, A Whole New Mind, talks about the rise of the creative class. And he mentions that whereas the 20th century was the century for the MBA, particularly the latter part of the 20th century, the 21st century is the century for the MFA, the Masters of Fine Arts. It's the creative thinkers that really will be the ones that will drive us toward a new way of thinking. You can produce products anywhere in the world now, but what you can't do is innovate anywhere. And you really do have to have those 21st century skills. So having said that, the question is, how do you get that to scale? How do you train people with those critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and problem solving? By the way, that's a thinking approach in general. And you really have to do that by leveraging technology. And so the movement that I see, that I'm sure have you talked about in your classes, is the whole notion of hybrid learning, flip technology. 10 years ago, everyone was talking about MOOC, massive open online courses, they're going to replace higher education. They haven't replaced higher education. But higher education is beginning to adapt and build in these hybrid models so that MOOCs become a part of the overall equation, the overall toolkit. And I really believe that that's got to be the future. The whole notion that a child will sit in the classroom for a 45-minute period, a 50-minute period, and hear someone speak, and then only retain, according to the literature, 10% of what they hear is a waste of time. But on the other hand, if they can, in their own time, listen to a lecture, listen to a tape of a lecture, watch it online in their own time, and then use the classroom time to interact for peer learning, where there's cognitive dissonance and the students are co-creating their own solutions. That's the wave of the future. And that's the value of the classroom experience, not the lecture, but it's the peer-to-peer interaction. If we can solve this big problem, how do we foster this peer-to-peer interaction in a truly technological, virtual way, like you and I are doing now? I think that will mark the future of education, and where we can get things to scale and produce those 21st century skills. We haven't solved that fully yet. I think there are some great tools that are out there, like Zoom and others, that allow classes to work together and one can see groups of students interacting. But that face-to-face communication, that one-on-one transaction between student and teacher, where the teacher can real-time interpret what a student learns and responds accordingly, that is got to be done at scale in order for us to see the future of education realized.
I totally agree with you, and I think my classmates will be able to completely relate to what you're saying, because this is what we've been reading about all quarter in our assignments generally across the course, but also we've read individual books that come to consensus about the same thing. So totally agree with you. I would hope
if you can get, Lisa, any type of literature on getting to scale in this approach, I would love to read anything that you're reading as well, because I don't think to the degree to which we can solve that, we can really solve a lot globally, not just in the United States, but globally.
Right. Yes, I agree. All right. Well, I guess the last thing I should say is there anything you want to tell us that I haven't asked yet that you think is important before I let you go?
Yeah, I'll just emphasize something I said earlier, I alluded to. Entrepreneurship requires the need to understand the requirements of the user. A successful entrepreneur does not create a product or a solution in silo and then impose that on individuals. Instead, it has to be co-created almost by the end user. So as one thinks about products, whether it's educational solutions or a new software tool, a new app, we have to kind of include the funds of knowledge of the ultimate user in order to co-create the solutions most effectively. And very oftentimes in school reform and other kinds of educational reforms, the end users are not considered. There's always an assumption as to what they need. And related to that, teachers are often not considered. And so if we can flip up the model and learn from them and deliver a solution that serves them, I think that will move the needle quite dramatically in terms of educational entrepreneurship.
I agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Karl Reid from the National Society of Black Engineers. I'm Lisa Rubin Johnson, and thank you very much, and I hope that our class on education, entrepreneurship at Northeastern University learns a ton from this interview. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.